watching Force 13's live streaming service.
Welcome to other live broadcasting session from the Caribbean Weather Desk. My name is David Tones. I'm here with Lee and Alan, and this rolling coverage of the US tropical scene will be seeing Adam as host, with Lee up there in the up in Scotland. So evening to both Adam and Lee.
Yes, good evening. Good evening.
Hello. Yes, and good evening. Yes, as David mentioned, we are rolling coverage of Hermine as she makes her way up to the East Coast, as well as a new tropical threat, 92L, heading towards the Eastern Caribbean. So, yes, indeed. We'll actually start out this session just discussing quickly on 92L, then we'll go right into Hermine, and then back on to 92L. So let's go ahead and get right on it. As you could see on your screen, this is the satellite imagery for 92L. The system is becoming better organized. Convective activity is becoming more consolidated as well as organizing. Currently, the system is located at about 13.6 north, 56.5 west, I believe. Let me just confirm that here. I just want to apologize. My iPad seems to be doing a little bit of glitchy business here. Don't know why. Come on, behave yourself. Apologize for the technical issue within the first couple seconds of the start of this show. Wasn't expecting the iPad to glitch out on me. Okay, so current particulars on the system is that it is at 13.6 north, 56.2 west, minimum pressure 1008 millibars, winds of 35 miles per hour, gusting up to 40. There has been reports of weather buoys just east of the Eastern Caribbean, reporting winds very close to tropical storm force. And now it is expected that stormy conditions, including up to tropical storm force winds, are expected through the Eastern Caribbean through later tonight, going through tomorrow, as the system enters the Eastern Caribbean by tomorrow midday afternoon time frame. So we're watching the system very closely. It is getting there. It's not fully there yet, but as I'd always say, the magic 55-degree west line, it has indeed passed. And as we could definitely see, it's starting to definitely organize itself, with the system center being located around here. It's not entirely, great just yet, but it is working its way. Stormy conditions are expected throughout most of the islands here, with the heaviest being concentrated on the northern Windward Islands and the southern Leeward Islands. So basically right about here. Scattered showers, nothing too hectic for the northeast Caribbean islands here. Those guys had a good whacking from 99L, which eventually became Hermine, as well as Puerto Rico and Hispaniola. Likely the system will pass south of there Looks like target would be Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, maybe Cuba, Yucatan, eventually likely heading into the Gulf of Mexico. So that is 92L. We'll come back more with some details on that. But one of the main focus that we have throughout the Atlantic Basin is especially what is going on with Hermine. Just to give quick particulars about that, Hermine still has very strong winds with it. It has been classified as a post-tropical storm. However, system does have a decent chance of redeveloping into a tropical system once again, and also intensifying to hurricane intensity. So that's something that we're keeping a close eye on. As it heads currently east-northeast, expected to stall out and start heading back northwards, maybe northwestwards, towards New Jersey, Long Island, New York. We're talking about some serious threats here to the area. We're talking about storm surge threat. We're talking about rainfall threat. The gusty wind threat that will increase as the storm comes closer. If I was to put another storm much like it, I would say it would have to be Hurricane Sandy. Of course, Sandy was a much bigger system than Hermine, but Hermine is definitely gaining in size. And, in terms of the tracking for Hermine, it's very similar to Sandy and could pose similar problems as Sandy did. There are warnings issued out there for the areas Delaware, New Jersey, all the way through Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island. All the way through Cape Cod. It's definitely going to be a system that we're definitely going to be paying very, very close attention to. What I'll do is that I'll hand it over to Lee, if Lee's prepared, ready to go for it. No, we'll go more into details with Hermine, with Lee, and just explain.
I'll need to bring up the screen share first.
Yep. Explain the. We'll talk more about the warnings for the area, as well as we'll also discuss what's been discussed, not just with us but with other members as well, about Hermine and what its impacts and implications could be for later during the weekend and into next week.
Okay, screen share is up, guys, and welcome to those in the chat room, and we will get to your comments. Trent, we just cited yours, so give us a few minutes and we'll come back. Okay, Lee or Anna.
Okay, we're on to the Eastern USA and Principal Whip, Adam. What's the temperatures, sea surface temperatures?
Just hold on 2 seconds. It's still loading on my screen, the screen share.
Oh, right, I didn't realise it hadn't come up. That's it, yeah.
Yeah. But okay, it is up. It's up. No, it's up now. It's up now.
That's right. Then you go.
Yeah. So yeah. So just running through this, it's a little bit unclear, but all the blue lines here are detonating areas of increasing or decreasing sea surface temperatures or over the U.S. land temperatures. just to give you an idea, right in the middle of the screen is basically North Carolina. Just offshore to the east northeast of there is Hermine, and presently she is in about 29 to 30 degree water, with 31 to its north as it goes
Beside
through.
people see it.
Yep, through the Gulf Stream. And there it is. There's the visible imagery. This system currently presents itself as a non-tropical. As you can see, the convective activity is pushed away from the center of circulation, and the tail end of it looks more frontal. However, there is the likely chance of this thing, transitioning again into tropical and intensifying as it stalls out and then heads back northwards to northwestwards towards New Jersey and Long Island. And basically, what would happen is that the up-level trough, which is enhancing the non-tropical aspects of the system, will eventually kick out and leaving ridging to build back in, and also allow for shear to fall over the system and allowing the convective activity to fall back into place over the center of the system and allowing it to reorganize and redevelop as it heads northwards. So, as I stated, if you could pop back the sea surface temperatures on there, Lee, it's currently moving through the Gulf Stream and is starting to enhance and intensify itself. As we saw, as it came off the coast, it re-intensified back into a 65-mile-an-hour storm and then eventually a 70-mile-an-hour storm. And likely to get back. Yeah, it's getting close to that 75-mile-per-hour hurricane intensity. We just have to wait.
I will add that there's still energy going on from above as well for the system. So it's not just the heat of the Gulf Stream, it's also the energy from above as well.
Yes, and also to add to that as well, it's not just the energy coming from above, but there's also the Kelvin wave, the convectively coupled Kelvin wave, which is in a positive phase and moving into the Atlantic, as well as the MJO, the Madden-Julius oscillation, which is heading towards our region. So not only will this enhance Hermine, but this will also enhance 92L, as well as give any enhancement to any other systems behind 92L. So if we were to bring up the oceanic heat content as well, Lee, if you could bring up that, yeah.
This one.
Right, so it's thanks, Lee. So it's not exactly too clear for further up north, but as you could see, throughout the whole entire Atlantic basin, there's a decent area of the higher heat potential or oceanic heat content that extends south of 10 all the way about 25, 30 west, and just continuing up across the Caribbean, Bahamas, Gulf of Mexico. And as you could see, that little stream that comes up off the east coast, that's part of the Gulf Stream, and it's throwing some of that, and that's throwing some of the heat energy up into areas of the northern east coast of the United States. We'll have to watch this closely as the system works its way towards New Jersey, Long Island, Connecticut.
It may also affect Washington too, and New York City as well.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So with that there, also just mentioning also with 92L, it is in that warmer ocean heat content, and as you can see, as it moves westwards through the Caribbean, it will only get itself into warmer oceanic heat content, and the heat content that's in the area has been a very high and very hot since the start of the season, and we don't really expect too much change with that. If we could get 92L to ramp up to a massively strong system, it might give some upwelling across the area, which will allow for it to cool down a bit. But I don't expect, even if it does ramp up pretty darn strongly, I do expect the ocean heat content to rebound afterwards. It's a lot of heat energy. It's a lot of stuff there, and it's going to take a long while and many storms to get rid of it. So
Certainly going to cause 92 to be a major in my book.
yes, definitely.
Thank you.
So to discuss about the particular warnings and so on that are in the area, I'll bring it over to David to screen share
Yeah, I'm
the
going to
warnings
put the
for there.
screen share off. Hold on.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, there we go. There you go.
All right, go ahead, David. And we'll discuss about the warnings that are in for these areas. And yes, there are still warnings up there for these areas, even though that this thing has transitioned and could likely transition back. We'll wait and see how things go. David?
Okay, and I'm just bringing it up now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up.
Okay, we've got it, and
Loading. Okay. Well, before we just go to the warnings for Hermine, let's just I wanna just run quickly over with you the particulars with the upper level winds for both 92 and Hermine here. Let's get 92L first right off the bat. The system has a upper level anticyclone over the system that's providing lower wind shear. Yes, there is higher wind shear to the north and west of it. David, down to the bottom here. 92L. Yeah, so and the higher wind shear is being produced by a upper level low that's being kind of elongated and stretched out, becoming more like an upper level trough rather than an upper level low. Either way, this upper level low slash trough is expected to pull northwestwards and eventually out the way for the system. The upper level anticyclone is expected to take over and pretty much allow the low shear as it moves through the Caribbean. And as you can see, over a good portion of the Caribbean, there's low wind shear anyway. So when that pulls out, it couldn't be much of a problem. Okay, so David, can you scroll up a little bit so we could go over Hermine? A little bit more. Okay, so with Hermine, as you can see, it's in a very unfavorable share, very high 50, 60 knot wind shear. However, if you've noticed that green blob there of lower wind shear over the lakes here, Lake Ontario, Lake Huron, area. Now, this is expected to move over Hermine, and once it does that, it will allow for the activity to regrow back over the center, and allow for the system to eventually get out of its cold core and become more warmer core. Eventually, this should allow it to transition to subtropical, maybe fully tropical storm, and then with its forecasted intensity, we could end up seeing this back into a Category 1 hurricane as Hermine heads towards Long Island and New Jersey. And if this is indeed the case, it's going to have some serious implications for those areas. So, it's something that we're keeping an eye on. We're keeping an eye on that low wind shear spot and seeing how it will interact with Hermine. So let's just go on to the next tab there, David. And it's just showing you the shear tendencies, right? And obviously, as you see for 92L, the shear is lowering over the system and will continue to do so. Of course, there is increasing shear over the upper level low, but as that upper level low does move out, it should bring all of that out the way and allow for the lower shear to take place across the Caribbean. And if you notice with the symbol of Hermine out there, and you've noticed the blue dotted line areas there, that's lowering wind shear over Hermine, and we expect this to occur, and especially that Hermine's going to stall. It will allow for that area to get right up on top of her and allow that shear to build, that that lower wind shear to build over Hermine and allow her to re-intensify. So it's something that we're keeping very, very close eye on for that. Um, let's hop over to the low-level vorticity for the system just to give you an idea on how things look. And obviously, right off the bat, it's clear as night and day. Hermine and the vorticity is still there, still going strong, and we don't really expect too much to change with that, with going downwards. Actually, we would expect the vorticity to increase some more as this intensifies. And obviously, the other thing is with 92, the vorticity is increasing. We would really prefer if the vorticity was more rounded, very similar to how Hermine is. And when we get a more rounded vorticity, we get a more of a better spin, and thus a better tropical system. We'll be watching this closely as it moves its way towards the Eastern Caribbean. Just pointing out that if this does not become a tropical storm before the islands, it likely wouldn't really get going until it reaches the Central Caribbean, likely southwest of Puerto Rico or just south of Dominican Republic, which is a part of Hispaniola, which is about near 70, 68, 68, 69, 70 west. And by when if even either way, if it does become a tropical storm east of the islands, or it doesn't end up becoming a tropical storm till it's south of Dominican Republic, we'd expect it to pretty much intensify and become quite a decent system by the time we get into the Western Caribbean. And then the next question is, okay, once it does get there, where will it end up? Whether it will be following much like Hermine into Florida, or if it will take a more western route towards Louisiana, or if it takes even a more western route and ends up in Texas or northern Mexico. We'll have to wait and see. We got a good few days to go before we get anywhere near the Gulf of Mexico. So we'll watch that closely and see what goes on. There's also another tropical wave out in the Eastern Atlantic with a low pressure system added with it. Low pressure system located just west to west northwest of the Cape Verde Islands. Models have been picking it up and possibly developing it at the moment. We'll just have to wait and see. There's a bit of Saharan dust and a bit of dry air that it has to contend with. But as we've known with 92L, it was in a very similar location as this system and had to deal with the dry air and Saharan dust as well. And we saw how 92L came back right from that. So That's how it'll go. So in terms of all these systems and where it will go, we'll take a look at the steering flow for the system. Not so much with Hermine, but with 92 and maybe the system behind that. David, if you could put that up there for me. Yes, right, thank you. So we got a building Atlantic high pressure ridge, and as you could see, it goes all the way into the Gulf of Mexico. So with 92L, likely westwards track into the Caribbean, and then eventually a west-northwest to northwest track as we get into the Western Caribbean. And then obviously we could see here that, in the Gulf of Mexico as the current steering flow anyway, it's kind of slow and it's expansive and it could go in any direction really. It could go into Florida, it could go in Louisiana, it could go into Texas. As we get later on, by the time it gets into the Central Caribbean with 92, we'll get a better idea on exactly where this thing will be ending up throwing itself to. For the other system there, the Cape Verde Islands, there's a bit of a weakness that's currently out there on the eastern side of the Atlantic High. So likely a continued track towards the west, northwest, northwestwards. It is believed that eventually this weakness would close off as the high builds in to the east as well, eventually turning the system more to the west. Looks like this system would probably might end up missing the Eastern Caribbean. Might end up near the Bahamas, maybe up the East Coast, but it's way too far out to know exactly for sure what it's going to do for now. But for now, we'll just say west-northwest, northwest movement. We'll watch it in the next couple of days, see what it throws at us. So in terms of 92L, I mentioned that similar to the other system, it had dry air and Saharan dust to deal with, and I've mentioned this on the video yesterday how it has definitely gotten rid of that. Now here is the water vapor loop of Hermine, sorry, 92L. Pardon me for that. As we can see, the moisture content is pretty decent. Little minor dry slot that is to the south. Likely not to be an issue as you can see, the moisture content around the system is expanding, and it's likely expanding due to the upper level anticyclone over the system, allowing the outflow for the system. And as you can see quite clearly on the satellite imagery, the outflow for the system is definitely gaining. You can see it outflowing from the south, outflowing west and on the west side, outflowing to the north. On the north side, kind of outflowing towards the north and northeast. East side of the system, the outflow is not too great, but it's outflowing out to the east and a little bit to the south. So, I mean, it's a pretty decent outflow. It'll protect the system from the drier air, as you can see over Puerto Rico, in association with that upper level low. And as you can see, that is pulling out as well, so likely not to be too much of an issue. And just again, sea surface temperatures along the area, 30s. It was in 29 degrees. Now it's pretty much entering 30s, and then eventually 31s into the Caribbean. So very favorable sea surface temperatures. Definitely not an issue there at all for that. In terms of its convective activity, one of the many satellites I like to use is the RB top or rainbow top imagery. I also like using the rainbow imagery itself as well as AVN. And this just highlights the thunderstorm activity itself, and kind of gives you a good idea on how the activity is. So as you can see, the activity, it's organizing, it's not organizing too quickly, but it is organizing. It's before this was a long stretch of thunderstorms, lonely east to west, and not really showing up as a blob per se. And that's kind of what you would want to see, a kind of centralized blob over where the center of the system would be. And as you can see, the convective activity on the west side decreased. The activity over the system or near the system center had increased and kind of blobified, if I could make that into a word. And then it's kind of increased a little bit on the east side, but overall decreasing on the east side. So overall, the convective activity is getting there. The only downfall that I'd say for the system would be its fast forward movement, but I do expect system to slow down quite a bit as it heads through the islands, and especially as it passes to the south of Puerto Rico and Hispaniola. I'd expect a very big slowdown of the system by the time it reaches there. So overall, we've looked at the East Coast sea surface temperatures. We looked at the sea surface temperatures directly surrounding 92 well. But let's just take a look at the big general picture per se on sea surface temperatures. We could see that, the 26-degree line, which is the threshold for tropical development, you cannot see it on this map because there is so much warm water and it's so big, it's so expansive that it literally covers the whole entire tropical Atlantic, which is quite amazing considering the last few years where we had last year with a very strong El Nino, and conditions in the Atlantic were very unfavorable, not just sea surface temperatures, but by wind shear as well. And this is quite indeed a completely different story than what we've seen over the past 5 years or so. A very large area of high sea surface temperatures. I mean, but this goes all the way to Africa, through the main development region, through the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, off the Southwest Atlantic and Bahamas areas, going all the way up to the East Coast. So with that, Hermine, 92L, and any other system that was to develop, it's got warm waters to deal with, and that will aid in its development. So it's all good. It is all good. So in terms of Hermine, this is the water vapor imagery, and as you can see, that upper level trough and a high wind shear, which is causing a bit of a problem for Hermine, is obviously pushing through. There might be a little bit of a dry air problem, but we would expect that that after the higher shear moves out and the lower shear moves in, it should allow for the convective activity to build back over the system and allow it to re-intensify. So with that being said, you may have noticed a little bit of drying out for some parts of the states, especially over North Carolina, Virginia, Delaware, and parts of the area of New York. It's likely only just a temporary drying out. There will be more precipitable water coming in, more rain coming in once the system starts to re-intensify. I just want to point out here with the satellite, with the water vapor imagery, you could start to see where the banding from the convective activity is actually starting to fight back and push towards the center. You could notice that top edge there, that top edge of the banding, that's starting to push back west westwards and back over the center, as well as bandings, as a convective banding starting to build back on the east side of the system. And it'll be interesting to watch overnight, and watch as the shear backs off of the system, and watch as the convective activity increases and moves back over the center of the system. So we'll watch this closely. So finally, we will get to it. The warnings for the areas off the East Coast, and how this pertains with Hermine. As you can see, a good portion of the Northeast U.S. And coastal regions are covered with watches and warnings, and we'll just go through some of them, not all of them, because there are a lot to go through. But just running through you by the advisory and what they have in terms of warnings and watches.
What do you want to start off with? And
Well, David, I'll just quickly run it through with the with what's on the advisory first before we go into details with particular states. So, just letting you know that a tropical storm warning has been discontinued uh, for the Pamlico and the Abermannel Sound, and but the rest of the watches and warnings still remain in effect. Tropical storm warning from Arakoke Inlet to west of Watch Hill, Chesapeake Bay from Drum Point southwards, Delaware Bay. Tropical storm watch in effect for Watch Hill to Sagamore Beach, Block Island, Martha's Vineyard, and Nantucket. Those are the tropical storm watches and warnings. Of course, we do have hurricane warnings issued offshore. This is pretty much from just east of southern Virginia, all the way up to just east southeast of Long Island. Of course, it's offshore, and as you can see on the map here that David has, it's the lighter red shading in all the red covered areas across the East Coast. That is the area that's under hurricane warning. We'll watch it as Hermine continues, and if anything, you'll likely see some changes with the hurricane warnings maybe extending further towards land, and you might end up with the coastal hurricane warnings as this thing starts to re-intensify, as well as watching the watches and warnings further up north as we get to southern New England to change from watches to warnings. So we'll watch that closely, as well as any internal warnings. I know that there are a few hurricane local statements issued further inland, as well as a gale watch, I think north of Cape Cod, and hazardous sea warnings that's been issued, as well as I think there's probably a few other warnings that are issued there, flood watches, flood warnings of sorts. So, for particular areas, keep a very close eye on your local National Weather Service and their warnings that are issued for your particular area. So it's an interesting storm that has very, very deadly effects and damaging effects. There's already been deaths caused by the system, and we would not want to see anyone else needing to be rescued or bodies recovered. So just giving you an idea on what are the hazards that would be affecting the areas. Tropical storm conditions will spread northwards within the warning areas along the Atlantic coast through Monday. maybe multiple occurrences with tropical storm conditions along portions of the mid-Atlantic coast in the warning areas during the next couple of days. Tropical storm conditions possible in the watch area by Monday. And of course, as if this thing does definitely intensify some more and head closer towards the coast, we're talking about possible hurricane conditions that could be for these areas as well. For right now, we're just calling it tropical storm conditions. We'll wait and see what happens. But it's definitely a lot of hazardous stuff in terms of the winds. Storm surge is going to be another main problem for the area because it will cause not only the upwards lift of water due to the storm itself, but you also got to remember with high tide as well, that will cause these areas to increase the surge level, as well as with the current moon cycle. Currently, I think just coming out of new moon, and usually when that occurs, it also changes how high tides do get. So that is something that we're watching closely. So, as I said, the combination of the storm surge plus tidal stuff will cause normally dry areas near the coast to be flooded by the rising coastline, moving inland from the shoreline along immediate coastlines. The surge will be accompanied with large and dangerous waves. There's a danger of life-threatening inundation throughout tonight in the Hampton Road area. And in the next 36 hours from Chincoteague, Virginia to Sandy Hook, New Jersey, persons within these areas should take all necessary actions and precautions to protect life and property from rising waters. Promptly follow all instructions, including evacuation orders from your local officials. There's also there is also a possibility of life-threatening inundation during the next 48 hours at many coastal locations between Sandy Hook, New Jersey, Bridgeport, Connecticut, and I gotta tell you, it's serious situations, and also not to get to mention, with the air rushing through between Connecticut and Long Island, plus the storm surge likely to get itself up through to New York as well. New York City, Long Island. We all remember on the scenes that come out of Hurricane Sandy and what it did, with flooding and storm surge. Obviously, Sandy was a much bigger storm, but the effects are actually somewhat similar to this system to a certain extent. So if you are interested, the NHC has started this prototype storm surge watch warning graphic that you could check out at the National Hurricane Center's website at www.nhc.noaa.gov. And if you want to look at the graphic directly, you can check out www.hurricanes.gov/graphics _at AT4 .shtml ?w surge. So yeah, you could look at that closely for your particular area. Just give you, just to show you guys where the watches and warnings for storm surge are. So definitely keep a close look at that. Of course, water could reach heights above ground if peak surge occurs during high tide. Obviously, North Carolina Sound 1 to 3 feet, Hampton Road area 2 to 4 feet, Chincoteague Cotiga, Virginia to Sandy Hook, 3 to 5 feet. Sandy Hook to Bridgeport, 2 to 4 feet. And obviously, if the storm does again intensify more so and heads even more so towards land, those heights will definitely increase a bit. Rainfall, obviously, that's another main issue. You'll have the flooding from the storm surge, also the possibility of um, storm surge flooding plus the rainfall flooding, which is definitely going to be a problem. Um, you got the heavy rainfall. For the most part, will remain offshore through Monday, Labor Day. However, I say the maximum amounts of 1 to 3 inches are possible along the immediate coastlines, mid-Atlantic and northeast up into southeast New England. And again, as I said, as it intensifies, and also if it heads closer towards land, obviously, the heavier amounts will get closer to the coast. So that is a big problem. And obviously, as mentioned, with surf conditions, obviously with the storm surge, large waves will be generated by Hermine along the east coast. Um, from mid-Atlantic states expanding northwards along the coast of southern New England through Monday. These waves will cause life-threatening surf and obviously storm surge, and also rip current conditions. This will also cause significant beach erosions. If you're on the coast and worried about this, you do need to consult products from your local weather office. As I said, it's a dangerous situation setting up out there, and it could get quite gnarly indeed. It's a situation that we're watching closely. We know that a lot of people across the Northeast are worried about the situation, and we are worried about it too. So it's just something that we'll have to keep a close eye on as the days progress. Either way, by the time we get to near the end of the week, next week, Hermine or whatever left of Hermine is there, whether it's a non-tropical low or a fully fledged hurricane, whatever. It should be heading back out to the east. Whether it makes a landfall or not, it'll eventually push offshore out to the east and out into the Atlantic, maybe passing nearby the Canadian maritime regions. Later at the end of the week, going into the weekend. So this thing's going to be sticking around pretty much all week. So, it's going to be a harsh week to come.
Okay, Adam, well done. What we'll do, have you got any other links you'd like to open, or we can just go back across those links that you've got, and I will stop the screen share this way and see what comments we have in the chat room. And for those in the room, we haven't forgotten about you, but Adam's provided a very comprehensive outlook from his position. So I'm going to stop the screen share. This is Force 13's live rolling coverage of post-tropical Hermine?
Cyclone. Yep.
Cyclone, whatever. Likely to redevelop into a hurricane. Not forgetting that the threat remains. Okay.
Yep.
Just the operation here. Okay. I'll just stop the screen share, and I'm going to turn to the information that's on the Twitter. It's been reported New York's Emergency Operations Center is ready to respond to any eventuality caused by Hermine. That is just repeating. New York's Emergency Operations Center is ready to respond. We've got another comment. It's like a monsoon coming down where I live, getting more rain now than when Hermine blew through. These slightly old. And on the tornado front, it's a confirmed tornado damage in Savannah, Savana, Georgia area from Hermine. So confirmed tornado damage is there. Hermine, as it heads back out over warm water, post-tropical or tropical, expect huge coastal impacts regardless. So that's from Jim Cantor. I think he's a storm chaser.
Cantori.
Yep.
He is one of the hurricane guys on the Weather Channel. Yep.
Okay, and if Hermine turns westward, we could experience power outages. We can't rule out another westward track or possible westward track.
At the moment, it is quite possible indeed that that Hermine could end up indeed pulling off another Hurricane Sandy type track towards New Jersey and Long Island. It is a definite developing situation and a very dangerous situation for sure. And everyone in the area should definitely keep a very, very close eye on this system as it does so. Either way, even if it just pulls north and kind of sits there, the effects will still be quite dangerous. Still expecting tropical storm conditions, still expecting storm surge, still expecting rainfall. So no matter exactly what this system does, it's still expected to have the same effects, if not worse effects than what was expected before. So it's a developing situation. It is looking very ugly for the Northeast U.S. and southern New England. So just play it safe. That's all I could say. Don't risk your life just because it's tagged as a post-tropical system. It could very well re-intensify and come back to full-fledged tropical system. So this is one of those storms you do not want to be playing games with. You don't want to be playing games with any storms at all, to be honest, but especially a storm like this is not one that you want to play around with.
Okay, Alan, I'll come back to the information flowing under the hashtag Hermine. Abdullah comment about the high shear, the high wind shear, rain shadow. A comment about Hurricane Gilbert type repeat in 1988.
For 92.
92 or 92 would it be? Hermine? Hermine?
No. The 92 with Gilbert situation. I mean, it's certainly possible. Right now, it's exactly too early to say exactly if it will pull off a Gilbert or an Ivan or a Charlie kind of track. But the main kind of idea is looking back on other storms, the kind of tracks that I think that 92 will eventually follow. You know, Gilbert is one of them. Ivan is another. Charlie of the same year of Ivan, 2004, is a possibility. Emily of 2005 is a possibility. You know, there are several storms out there that have, you know, in some ways similarities to 92L that we're watching very closely on. And with conditions out there, you know, things could turn quite ugly, especially in uh, Western Caribbean with the system. Um, in terms of Hermine, just saying, definitely not a Gilbert, more of a Sandy than a Gilbert, but yeah.
Okay, Adam. Minecraft Pro, his reference to the current system gave us a lot of bands in Miami, very strong winds. Abdullah, I think he's referring to Ian, might be Ivan's revenge.
You know, I do have to smile when I hear people comparing 92, possibly future Ian to Ivan of 2004. You know, it's quite similar. Yes, it's expected to get into the Caribbean. It could end up ramping up. And it's funny enough, you know, I name storms. There's always seems to be a kind of a omen thing, if you do believe in the omen thing, that it's always the eye storm of the season that ends up being the bad one. And if you do look at it, though, however, there are quite a few decent eye storms that ended up becoming pretty bad systems, such as example, there was Igor, Irene, Ike, Ivan, Isidore. I think Isabel is another one. And yeah, you know, I name storms. They always seem to want to you know, be a big time system. And you know, if the system does indeed, yes, you know, it'll follow suit to that. With Hurricane Ivan, I think it's a possibility that this thing could end up pulling off an Ivan type track. In terms of intensity, you know, it's a bit too early to say exactly for sure. We are going to be, according to the plans, we are going to be getting a Hurricane Hunter recon aircraft flying into 92L on Monday. We'll be watching closely to that, watching what it says. It'll be interesting to see how the system continues to organize as it moves into the Caribbean. As I've stated already, with buoy weather buoy observations offshore indicating near tropical storm force winds, you know, it just makes me wonder, you know, what would happen, you know, once it gets into the Caribbean, starts slowing down. You know, if the winds increase, you know, we could be seeing a system that that does intensify quite decently, quite quickly.
Okay, thanks. And just continuing with, I'm going to leapfrog vice versa for 92L and the Hermine. 92L, as Adam and I said prior to coming on air, Jamaica is very, very concerned. Adam, re 92L, what local preparations, to your knowledge, are currently underway?
Well, right now, things are generally under status quo as the system is not yet in the Caribbean. For particularly Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, Here we're watching it closely. We're keeping an eye on it as it goes through day by day. Um, Emergency services and hazard management, as well as any search and rescue teams and so on. They're all aware of the situation. We're all keeping an eye on the situation, and obviously, if things do de-escalate, we'll definitely go into full swing. Hurricane plans and preparations. They've trained and always retrained and pre-prepared every year. Every few months, they've always been updated and so on. So we're all ready to go. We used a earlier storm this year. Luckily it wasn't too bad. If you all remember Hurricane Earl that came across the Caribbean and ended up in Belize. There was warnings that were issued for Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, and later on, obviously, with Belize and the Yucatan. Um, that was a very, very good test for us. And at least from a local perspective here in the Cayman Islands, I was very, very pleased to see what the reactions were by the public and also by the government for preparations for the system. When we did get the watches issued, there were people running to the stores. There was the government agencies getting government buildings and getting shutters up and getting the shelters on standby, as well as emergency personnel on standby to go active if needs be. Luckily for Earl, it didn't get any farther than that in terms of activations to anything else. But it was a very good test to see, and also very similar thing for Jamaica. Obviously, Jamaica did get impacted slightly bit more than here in the Cayman Islands, and they did go into some activations of some of the departments and agencies and teams for particular areas for there. So with that being said, definitely prepared for whatever 92L throws at us. For those in the Eastern Caribbean, they're keeping a close eye on it, especially that later on as we get through the latter part of Sunday going into Monday, they are expected to get stormy conditions and with winds possibly getting up to tropical storm force. Luckily, with those islands there, they are prepared for it, and they're keeping a close eye on and ready to act upon at any moment's notice if needs be. We do have overseas help via the naval services from the Royal Navy, as well as the United States Coast Guard, as well as the U.S. Navy, as well as the French Navy, as well as the Royal Dutch Navy. And of course, the French and the Dutch do have bases located in the Eastern Caribbean, and obviously the U.S. Navy with Puerto Rico. And they're there to respond if needs be. So yeah, preparation. Everyone's just watching closely, seeing what happens, and if anything, we're all ready to get going at any moment's notice.
Okay, Adam, this is Force 13 Live. We appreciate the support. Adam is down there in the Cayman Islands. For me, David Tones, my base is Brisbane, Queensland, east coast of Australia, and Lee over there in Scotland. So that brings everyone up to date with what's unfolding over there on the east coast of America, and local time at my HQ is nearly 1400 hours. Lee,
Oh, it's 5 a.m. here.
5 a.m.
It's
Well,
5 a.m.
you can.
And it is 11. It's 11 p.m. at my
Yeah.
local time.
Okay, team, just continuing. Force 13 operates Twitter USA. Force 13 two separate accounts on the Twitter platform. We also operate a couple of Facebook pages. So what we'll do, guys, we'll bring this session to an end. We'll regroup, considering Lee's 5 a.m. Time. I'll just pass it back to Lee, Adam, and then I'll do the closing parts of the session. So, Lee, across to you.
Yeah, well, it's been good doing another session again. Terrific updates once again, I have to say. Everybody keeps up the good work. I think we've done a brilliant job again, basically. So, anything else Adam would like to say?
Yes, indeed. It's been a quite a roller coaster these last few days, especially with Hermine and her impacts across the East Coast and our coverage of that, as well as us continuing coverage for this next upcoming week with the impacts with 92L and for the Caribbean, and possible impacts later down the line for the Gulf of Mexico. So it's been all good and great so far. No major complaints from me or anyone else on the team. And we definitely do enjoy doing this, and we'll definitely continue doing it to provide all the information for all of you, because we care about you, and we want you to stay with us for as long as possible. So yeah. So stick around for any new updates that do come about. Never know, we might end up popping up again later tonight and again tomorrow. We'll definitely popping in tomorrow and Monday with the new impacts with 92 to the Eastern Islands, as well as the recon mission to go into 92L, as well as watching Hermine intensifies back into hurricane conditions and its impacts across the East Coast.
Okay, and just a final comment. If we're not live broadcasting on the main channel, you can always monitor the Force 13's extra channel. But as Adam said, we could be back later with another session, but stay tuned, and bye for now.
Bye for now.
Yep. Bye.